Fishing in the margins for carp, it's got to be my favourite method of all time. I love sitting behind a bivvy and 3 rods and making cups of tea and sausage sandwiches, but there's nothing better than seeing the fish feed in the margins on your bait, whether it be boilies, maggots, pellets, whatever you choose to use. Story takes me back to late 2017. I was fishing on one of the lakes with a friend of mine. He'd not done a lot of carp fishing, so we started on one of the smaller pits. And we noticed in the margins of the pit next to us, the carp going up and down the tree line. So being October of that year, I'd got some maggots with me, so we started to feed the maggots in on a Saturday night, and couldn't believe how quickly they got the heads down on the maggots. Almost like they wouldn't leave the spot until they'd ate everyone. I was straight in the tackle box looking for some really strong gear. Because we were surrounded by trees, reeds and branches going in the water, it needed to be quite strong. So I'd got 20-pound X-line on the reels, so I made a hook length out of that. Had some size 5 stiff rigger hooks and basically knocked a maggot rig up, but I thought I'd use fake maggots for a start. So I got maybe 8 or 9 fake maggots, tied them on some dental floss and then attached them to a rig swivel. Hopefully you can see that there. So on the Sunday morning we started feeding the maggots again. Sure enough, the fish are straight back in. There was 3 fish in the swim, a decent sized one and 2 small ones. So we waited till they vacated the swim, put quite a large PVA bag of maggots on and swung the bait into the swim. What I saw next took me by surprise. The smallest of the 3 fish came straight out the trees where it was obviously sat, went straight over the top of the PVA bag, and in the space of about 5 seconds hoovered up every single maggot. Now the maggots hadn't had a chance to move very far by that point, and then it swam off back into the trees. Hook bait was still there, intact, carp none the wiser, probably 6 or 7 pounds. I looked at my friend, we're both in disbelievement because it's literally underneath our feet. We watched every second of it. So we decided something wasn't quite right. So the fake maggots, which I've got to admit looked pretty awful in the water looking back on it, they came off. So that's where we came to this. So it's quite a small maggot bowl. PVA bag on, made sure there was no fish in the area, swung it back out. Yet again the little fish came out first. Went over the top of the PVA bag, cleaned every single maggot up. There was even another fish with it helping it out. So there's 2 fish now cleaning me out, doing me over. Out the trees came a 3rd fish, the biggest of the 3, went down on the hook bait, sucked it straight in, fish on. Couldn't believe it. The biggest fish out of the 3, and I'm now playing it. Carried on feeding the maggots, which we've been getting them feeding on yesterday afternoon and today. Finally, this little chunky one came along, 17 pound. You see it's feisty, it's got his fin up on. He's doing it for the cameras. Caught it on the maggots, PVA maggots. A bunch of maggots on the hook. Strangely enough, the smallest one out of the 3 that were feeding over the bait kept dropping the hook bait. This was actually the biggest one of the 3 that were feeding. Once all the maggots had gone, it had a habit. They're just addicted to the maggots. Quick look at the other side. Okay, there she is with the fins up again. You can see it's well black. The water here is really clear. It makes the fish a lot blacker. Don't they stand out? 17 pound mirror. Let's get it back. Okay, so we're moving into 2018 now. It's June time. I've not been able to fish up until this point. I managed to get back down just for a day session. So as per normal, I wander around, bait a few spots up, and the wind was really hacking into one corner. So I kept the maggots going in, and the fish were coming over the maggots, and they were feeding really hard. My biggest problem was getting the rig back in. I was back on the rig rings, still on the size 5s, still on the 9 maggots tied in a bunch. I'd stepped my line up to a 20-pound IQ, a lot stiffer than the X line, probably a little bit more abrasion resistant, but a dedicated hook length material. I've still got the blubber putty 2.5 inches from the rig just to keep that rig nice and short when it goes in its mouth. Now I don't know whether the maggot ball was moving the hook on the bottom, but what I was finding was the smaller fish were coming in and spooking off it. They'd come in, hover over the top of it and swim off. They just seemed to know it was there. I don't know whether they were closer to the bottom, they could see something, or whether they could see the hook moving with the amount of maggots. But anyway, I didn't realise it at the time, so I just kept feeding maggots. Eventually it paid off. I noticed some fish feeding down to my left in the corner, and the wind's blowing in there. I put some maggots in there and they were on it. The biggest problem I had was getting a rig in there. So I threw a few half boilies in, and then I just started to hope that they'd moved out. And dropped my rig in. I'd literally just had enough time to set it up. This beauty came along. It's just over 24-pound 5 ounce with the sling. I've just got to take the sling off because the scale switched off on me after I'd zeroed it. But it's going to be about 21.5 to 22. It's actually bigger than I thought it was. It was literally hook and hold, clutch tight, trying to get me under the trees. Save the blank. See this side, very noticeable. It's got an abscess. Still a beautiful fish. Boy, is it heavy. Not the biggest fish in here, I'm sure, but when you've had 24 hours of sunbathing, this makes it all worthwhile. Okay, so second fish of the afternoon. I went and had a look around the other side, put some maggots in there, some trees, but couldn't really see the bottom because the light's starting to fade, and kind of a decent sized common kept coming back into the corner, but it knew I was fishing for it, so I knew I'd get one last chance maybe, just as the light's fading. It's literally 7:25. This fish is hell bent on beating me up. £21, 5 ounces. Another £21 common. The one I had earlier was 21.11. I'm going to re-weight the sling. This one's 21.5. Brace of 20s on a Sunday afternoon. Look at that in the sunlight, absolutely beautiful. There's some beautiful fish in this pit. I've been watching it come in for maybe 2 hours, and it knew I was fishing for it, but the maggots got the better of it in the end. Beautiful. I'm soaking wet. I've got wet feet. It's the end of the day. I've got to drive home with wet trainers, wet legs. When you're putting fish like this back, who cares, eh?